In the second half of the 19th century, colonial powers were jostling for a slice of Africa. By the end of this process, about 1900, Britain found itself in possession of a large area of East Africa, where Popo was to acquire his farm. Here were many small tribal populations clustered within discrete geographical areas. Britain, Germany and Italy, the three powers with interests in East Africa, agreed their respective boundaries, and Britain's East African Protectorate was born. In 1919, the area was officially made a colony. Britain gave it the name of Kenya, or Kenya as it's known today. The East African Protectorate was a relatively large country, a little bit smaller than France, and about twice the size of the United Kingdom. Beyond a narrow, fertile coastal strip, it comprised of two major climatic zones. Much the biggest zone lies to the north and the east, where there are vast areas of desert and semi-desert. To the west are the highlands, an area of generally good rainfall and fertile soil. In 1900, the British built a railway linking the Indian Ocean at Mombasa with Lake Victoria at Kisumu. The railway was highly controversial because it seemed to have no real purpose. A British Member of Parliament at the time said, "The railway starts from nowhere and nobody wants to use it. It goes nowhere and nobody wants to come back by it." He denigrated it further in a poem. "What it will cost, no words can express. What is its object, no brain can suppose. Where it will start from, no one can guess. Where it is going to, nobody knows. What is the use of it, none can conjecture. What is its object, there's none can define. It clearly is naught but a lunatic line." One thing was for sure, the loan that was made by the British government to fund the construction of the railway had to be repaid. In the early 1900s, apart from missionary-inspired cotton growers in Uganda, there was nothing that required the use of the railway. To rectify this, the government passed the 1902 Crown Lands Ordinance. This was almost certainly the most significant piece of legislation in Kenyan colonial history. What it did was make land available in the fertile highlands available for the exclusive use of white European farmers. Any occupied land was not eligible for lease, and the government could only provide leases for up to 99 years. The Crown Lands Ordinance had given birth to the White Highlands. The idea was that white northern Europeans would come to East Africa with skills and capital and develop the agricultural industry. Agricultural produce would be shipped up and down the railway within the East African Protectorate and down to Mombasa for export, and this would help to pay for the railway. It was not until the 1930s that the area of the White Highlands was precisely defined. Until then, it was areas above 1,500 metres, that's 5,000 feet, which were unoccupied. These criteria yielded up the areas highlighted in the brighter green on this satellite image. Following the passing of the Crown Lands Ordinance in 1902, the busiest people in the East African Protectorate became the land surveyors. They had to parcel up more than 7,000 square miles of land into plots for lease. Over the next 30 years, branch lines of the railway were extended to other parts of the White Highlands. Farming communities sprung up around the stations served by the railway. My grandfather, Popo, went to the East African Protectorate in 1910. He decided to farm ostriches because ostrich feathers at the time fetched a small fortune on London markets. Ostrich farming did not require high rainfall or fertile lands, and Popo decided to take land in the driest part of the White Highlands. His ostrich farming failed, and he had to turn to other things. He kept his dry acreages and added to them, and by 1956 he had developed one of Kenya's most successful private agricultural enterprises.